have the person answer the phone in Spanish. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it's 100% that person. And we kind of followed it for a while. And I sat back, I was like, oh my God, if I was ever in Colombia and I got in a car accident and I responded to an ad and they picked up the phone and they spoke English, my immediately my trust level would go up, my stress level might come down a bit, and you'd have a much better chance of converting that lead.
Sharp strategies, sweet success.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sharp Strategies, Sweet Success. This is your host, Tiffany Swedensky, and today I am here with Len Spada. And I had to think about how to pronounce his name because we just talked about that before we started, and maybe he'll explain that to you a little bit later. But I have known Len through Great Legal Marketing for many years. He was a member for a long time and still keep in touch kind of sporadically. I see him on LinkedIn, I see him in other places. And the name of the law firm is Spada Law Group in Massachusetts, not Oklahoma. And so I'll go ahead and turn it over to Len to let him finish out the introduction and introduce himself.
Well, thank you, Tiff. And again, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's an honor. I have known you for quite some time and I've always been impressed by you and what you do. So when you asked me, I took it as an honor. So thank you. And the joke about my name, Len Spada, Len Spada, we're of Italian descent. All my relatives are from Italy, and the proper pronunciation is Spada. However, growing up, it was very much anglicized, and everyone called me Len Spada. So I meet my wife, we get married. She becomes Liz Spada for years, and then I got more true to my ethnic background. I started calling myself Len Spada. I called the law firm Spada Law Group. And one day at a function, someone went up to my wife and said, wait a minute, you're Liz Spada and he's Len Spada? And my wife did not think it was funny. I did. But people know the firm by both. It's more commonly known as Spada Law Group. So for today's purposes, I'll be Len Spada, Spada. And so we have a law firm just outside of Boston, and literally just outside of Boston. I could leave my door and walk within 3 or 4 minutes. I'm in Boston. But the name of the city is Chelsea, Massachusetts, and we are a 100% plaintiff's personal injury firm. I've had my own firm since 1998. The name of it changed because I had a partner who passed away, unfortunately, at a very young age. So we've been working continuously since 1998 as an exclusive plaintiff's PI firm.
And what are you guys, marketing-wise, business-wise, what's Spada Law Group doing this year that you want to talk about?
Well, we have, I would think, a unique niche. We focus primarily all of our marketing on the Hispanic community. About 65% of my client base, our client base, are people who identify as Spanish speakers. And what's interesting is the other 35% who identify as English speakers, a significant number are second generation Latinos and Hispanics who speak English perfectly well, but have in some way, shape, or form reacted to marketing that I put out there. They might be home with the mom who's watching Spanish TV or listening to Spanish radio, or whatever it might be. So that's been our avatar client for quite some time, in large part because Chelsea is a predominantly Hispanic community. And when I first started working here in 1998, it happened. It wasn't a conscious effort on my part. I'd like to tell you, the minute I got here, I realized that this was a tremendous opportunity for both the community and myself. And it's not what happened. I just evolved into, oh my God, all my clients are Spanish. So it's a very competitive market, Boston. So to play effectively in the same market as like Morgan and Morgan, and I was at a competitive disadvantage for like market spend and PPC spend and all of that stuff. So once we started niching down into the Spanish market, we started to really grow, and we really got a lot of traction. And it became fun too. It's a community. I'm a product of Italian immigrants. All my family came from Italy. So although the language is different, the challenges that I see in my client base really resonate with me. So I really enjoyed doing what I was doing. And so that's where we're at. So from a marketing perspective, we are in 2025, we doubled down on our radio spend, which a lot of people, hey, radio's dead. Well, it's not dead in the Latino community here in Boston. So what we did was we went in large to try to keep our competitors on the main Boston Spanish station, and we are the studio sponsors. So it's, there might be other people who come in, but they can never really get a foothold on the station because we kind of own it. And that was, we did it we advertised in 2024 as well, but we weren't the studio sponsor. And then in 2025, the person that helps me do my marketing said, I think it's a great play. You might want to take a little bit away from PPC, a little bit away from traditional TV and go that route. I was reluctant, but it's paid huge dividends for us. And it's helped us because I don't have a community marketing team, which I would like to do. We might end up building that out over time. Being part of the radio station, we get to glom onto all their community events. We get to put up tents. They get shout outs from the stage, from the celebrity DJs and the influencers. So it's been really cool, lots of fun, and it's paid off really well for us. So we just signed a 2-year deal to stay on. My hope is that over time, Spada Law Group and, Rumba 97.7 become synonymous with each other. They hear the radio, they're thinking of me. They think of me, they're thinking of the radio. And that's kind of the goal. So that's what we're doing. It's kind of cool. Secondly, we committed with a vendor to do a separate branded Spanish website. We have a Spanish website now that's connected to our English, but we've never done it well. We never really had the capacity to do SEO strong in both English and in Spanish. And we were spinning our wheels. So we're going to really put a lot of effort into Spanish SEO with the hopes over the next couple of years to be really dominant in the Boston area for Spanish. With the long-term player being, I have no desire to retire or to sell, but I would love to have a firm that in 3 to 5 years is a very desirable firm to purchase because I have the Spanish market. Someone might come in and be like, listen, it's a hard market to break into with boots on the ground and realize that we've been there for 30 years. And, that might be a really desirable play for either private equity or another firm or whatever. So how that works out, Tiff, to be determined, but that's what's in my mind going forward.
And they touched on so many good things. I have a couple questions, but I wanted to point out, because just before we started recording this podcast, I was with my marketing director mastermind, and we were going over Google Analytics. And we were discussing specifically how a lot of marketing decisions come from the data you're already getting. And just like what you said, not that you fell into Spanish marketing, you just looked at the data and realized a lot of your clients were Spanish speakers. And so you already had a foothold and you leverage that, which I think is just really smart. And sometimes it's just how marketing works. We set up a business, we market it, we look at the data, and then in the data is where we find the new opportunities. And so I think that's just really cool that that's how you kind of ended up here. I get my first question. Are you using an agency to help with your Spanish marketing, or is it all coming from in-house?
No, I've been working with Liel Levy over at Nanato for years, and I really credit him with taking my first call, me explaining, hey, I have all these Spanish clients, but I'm not leaning into the market at all. Do you have any thoughts? And Tiff, you know this as well as anyone listening who's in this space knows that there are a lot of vendors, and my first reaction was, and it's not always accurate, but they were all vipers trying to I can't go through my email feed in a day without someone trying to sell me something. So I was naturally suspicious. So when I started working with Liel, the trust that he and I now have took a while to develop. And it started with doing some small projects together. I got a chance to just, get a sense of whether or not he was really an honest broker, which I'm not here to pump up Liel and Donato. He is. He has on multiple times refused to take my money that I was more than willing to part with because he didn't think it was a good idea. And I thought to myself, this is not an insignificant sum of money I'm willing to part with. And this guy's like, I'm not, you have to find someone else. It's like, it's not the right play for your market. And by doing so, he ultimately found a way to take more money from me over a longer period of time. you know, but it worked, and he was always very upfront with me and honest with me about how long I had to hang in there to get results instead of, hey, I have $50,000 to spend. Oh, it didn't work. I'm not spending another dime. West about, as I got more into the mentality, this is a campaign. It was strategic. It may not work. You have to be comfortable with the possibility that something may not work. That does not mean your vendor's bad. It means that this is business. Some business risks pay out, some don't. Obviously, over time, if none pay out, you need to find another vendor. I get that. But Liel was, I have an utmost respect for him, and a lot of things he did. And we've had some stuff that didn't work out, but most of it did. And he has some great ideas. He brings a lot of energy. And so I've been very, very happy with him and his crew.
Liel was on the podcast, this podcast, about 6 months ago, I think is when. And I worked with him a few times, and honestly, nothing but positive things to say, just to echo what you already said. Like, very strategic, very honest, very open about what will work and what will not. And as a Viper myself, because I'm also selling services to attorneys, I'm acutely aware of how much you have to work to build that trust. And so many, I see Facebook ads all the time for lawyers, but, nature of my social media habits, I see them too. And, so many vendors out there, it's like, we will get you 6-figure cases, 7-figure cases, blah, 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 just selling attorneys on something like Facebook ads or Google ads. Not that those things are bad, but these are, sometimes I see like people who are basically children telling lawyers that they can generate cases for them. And it's kind of frustrating. And it's just like, I don't know you. And does this work? And yeah, it's crazy.
I know. And for somebody who really takes their craft seriously, it's frustrating, and you have to play the long game, and the long game sometimes can be frustrating, and I get it. And that's why when I do work with Liel, when things don't work, my default reaction is not to, we need a new agency. It's to, do a postmortem. Why didn't this work? Is there something maybe we should have caught we didn't? Or, quite frankly, sometimes you take a creative approach, and you realize you are taking a risk, and sometimes they pay off handsomely, and other times they don't. And when your budget is particularly small, that's scary, because I remember at a point in my career where I would spend money and I would really hope, there was an ROI that made sense, because I didn't have another pot. And with personal injury cases, even if I spend $100,000 and I generate some work, that work doesn't generate fees for quite some time. The life cycle can be long. So now what I got myself caught in, this campaign worked. Great. Now I don't have any more money for the second campaign for another 18 months. And then guess what? You don't market during this period. So and it was a vicious cycle. And quite frankly, I feel badly sometimes for some of the younger lawyers, because I know exactly how they're going through. And I don't really know the solution. Like I got to the point where I think a lot of PI lawyers go, you have a couple of big cases. You're like, okay, I can breathe. I'm going to do some strategic investing on this stuff. I'm going to make sure I have some money to flatten out the ups and downs. And you can breathe a little bit. Do I still stress out quarter to quarter? Yeah, like every other lawyer, But I do know I'm at a different stage. Okay, so my worries are not, oh my God, I can't pay payroll. My worries are like, oh my God, I just lost some of money. Like that's not cool. I want to do something else. So, and I love mentoring. So I've been having these conversations with young lawyers. I had lunch yesterday with 2 young lawyers who are really hungry, smart, and these are like potential competitors of mine, but I don't see it that way. And Ben Glass, who we worked with and for, is instrumental in me having this mind shift where I don't think of it that way. I'm there to help them with no expectation of it. And it sounds like, oh yeah, he's full of crap. That's really where I've gotten in my life. And I love doing it. I love helping. If I can save these two young, nice lawyers with families some crap that I've gone through, oh, that's beautiful, right? That's a great thing to do. But I see what they're going through, and I don't have all the answers. Like, so this came up in lunchtime yesterday with a male and a female lawyer. One was, they're both in their like early 30s. That's when they're smart lawyers. So they're struggling with, hey, I'm good in court, but then I come back and I got to figure out how to market. It's like, I look at them, I'm like, oh my God. It's like, I literally am happier being 60 years old than 32 right now. It's like, I don't want to do that again. And, but it's really tough, but I do think you can be strategic. And you've mentioned it. I mean, there's different ways of marketing. They don't have to go all in on PPC. They might be able to be more agile in the community where a Morgan and Morgan or even someone our size like is not as agile moving around. Like you could be in there, you could be sponsoring little leagues, you can be at the games, you can do a lot of stuff. It's work and it doesn't necessarily cost dollars, it costs time, but it's very effective marketing. It's super effective marketing, you know?
So I guess I like also mentoring, although I guess like I don't mentally think of it as mentoring, but it is. Like I mentioned the marketing director mastermind group. And for similar reasons, like I like coaching law firm marketers because they're in a position that I was in not too long ago. And surprisingly, like when you back away from just your business and like you're in a mastermind or you're consulting with a lot of different businesses, you start to see the patterns. And when you're talking to marketers, the patterns are they're all kind of dealing with the same issues at their law firm, same roadblocks, same things. And nobody has like the exact perfect answer because each law firm is different. How they might solve the problem is going to be different. But it's always nice to kind of pass on the knowledge and keep, I'm egotistical. I got a big ego just like a lot of business owners do. But like I'm not so much so that I don't realize that there's going to be another Tiffany Spadensky. And I would rather be the person to support and help them than, some crotchety old woman, I guess, talking about their kids suck or something like that. I would rather be part of their growth and helping them than their growth than ultimately being like a roadblock down the road. And so for me, like I'm quite intentional about trying to help others, even people who might be my competitors, because it's just nice to treat people nicely. And it
Not
just
only that, it
makes
makes
sense,
life it makes life more pleasant too. Like you're not always in some adversarial posture. I mean, my job in particular, not so much your job, but like I fight, quote unquote, fight every day with lawyers, with insurance adjusters. So it's nice to be in a position where you just feel like you're helping. And one of the things you mentioned is not being that crotchety old woman and helping. But I've learned, and I think that I have an advantage from a mindset point of view over other lawyers my ages. I go into meetings where I'm mentoring people intentionally trying to learn because there are things that young lawyers teach me every single time I'm with them. And I don't think there are a lot of lawyers who've been practicing as long as I have who think that a 32, 33, 35-year-old lawyer can help them with. And that is so like, and from everything to, hey, I tried this at a trial or a deposition last week. I'm like, wow, that's really kind of unique. That's cool. Let's talk about it. Or, hey, I've been trying this with my social media. People my age can learn a lot, at least about the concepts. I'm not like I'm going to go back and do it, but like talk to people who help me with videos. Like, hey, I saw something. I talked to someone. This is really working for them. Look into it. Let's try something. And I think that as you move through your career, you meet these young marketers. If you can pull away one or two little things from them, you're giving something, but you're getting something back.
And well, God, I gotta clear my throat. For me, when I talk to marketers, I'm pulling away more than just like one or two things. Like I learn things from marketers all the time. And it's not even like sometimes it's not even like their idea or like, hey, I'm doing it's a question that they ask. And it's a question that I've never asked. And I'm like faced to answer it. And I'm like, huh, that's interesting. And it makes me go back and think about something in a way that I didn't think about it previously, or just kind of went over my head, and you learn something new. There's always something to be learned by talking to people, sharing experiences, even if it's just finding out that you're not alone and everyone else is kind of going through the same bullshit. Not to cuss too much on the podcast, I shouldn't. And it's helpful. And I never walk away from these meetings, like mentoring other people or even like talking to competitors, feeling like I've lost.
Yeah.
Because relationships are
fresh perspectives. They're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And relationships are currency. I mean, they really are. Particularly with law firms, because you guys are doing B2B referrals all the time.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it too. Relationship. I've heard it before, but I haven't really given it much thought. Relationships are currency. And I have stepped back from some of the day-to-day lawyering to nurture, like my role now is on nurturing bigger relationships, strategic relationships, which is something I enjoy doing. But when you're actively trying cases or you're in depositions or in court, you only have so much time. And now I've, built a team that does a lot of that for me. So now I have time for that. Hey, meet this person for lunch or go to an event or go to a gala or whatever it is. And again, I'm not a big fan of being out at night. Like when I was younger, I was always out at functions in the evening. I like to, work my day, go home, go to the gym, chill out. Like I'm not into shaking hands. And I say that tonight I'm going to a Massachusetts Academy of Trial Attorneys event, and I will be out doing that, but it's not something I enjoy doing on a regular basis. So I'm doing a lot of lunches, early morning coffees, meeting people, and it's been helpful. It's actually paying dividends. Yeah.
Let me think about what you originally were talking about with the Spanish marketing, because I felt like I had. Oh, you mentioned the radio, which I think is so interesting when we're looking at particularly the Spanish market, because it's a different culture and they use technology differently than we do. And it's easy to underestimate that, particularly when you're a very white English speaker like me. But
And
like,
me.
for example, with the Spanish market, WhatsApp is a super popular app. And I've
Yeah.
rarely, if ever, used. And so when we start talking about Facebook ads, initially, like I'm doing it a lot more these days and seeing success with it. But traditionally, I haven't been a huge fan of small law firms doing lead generation on Facebook, because a lot of times you get junk leads from it. But when you have a huge portion of your market using an app specifically to communicate, Facebook ads just make a ton of sense. It makes a ton of sense when you're working with this market. And so and then radio, another one of my clients does a call-in radio show specifically for the Spanish market and saw a ton of success with it. And well, until you said it, it didn't really click with me that radio is probably a good way to reach
Oh,
Spanish
yeah.
market.
I didn't believe it. But then again, my belief was anecdotal. Like, what do I know? Like, I was just saying, radio's dead. Like, I'm embarrassed to say that I came to that kind of quick conclusion. I didn't really know what the hell I was talking about. Like radio, like, because I don't listen to radio. Therefore, no one listens to radio, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and that's, I think, and I've heard you talk about this, like marketing, lawyers have to, and it's hard to do, get out of their own, well, what do I like? It really doesn't matter. If you want the phone to ring, then you have to at least get yourself on a path to figure out what do your prospective clients like, not what you like. Because I'm a white guy. Like I'm not a 27-year-old Latino from the Dominican Republic. I don't know what they like. So I mean, you have to know what you don't know and be willing to ask questions. And we've learned so much from the clients that we do get. We try to mine the relationships as much as we can while they're clients to learn more. And I also have 80% of my staff is Spanish speaking and from the community. So they're really plugged in. That was also, when I say it was a really smart idea, I'm not giving myself credit. Like I look back and be like, wow, in retrospect, that looked like a really smart idea, right? It looked like a genius. It wasn't that. I did get lucky that I hired a lot of people from the community who had some community influence too. So I got some people that came on board who had some cachet the El Salvadorian community or the Puerto Rican community or the Dominican. And all of a sudden, I was like, wow, that might have been. I mean, I've had people work for me before in certain roles that honestly they were so productive at generating business. I wouldn't care if they stopped doing their roles. You know what I mean? Like really, you working and all of a sudden, like I'm thinking to myself, I would never say, but like, I don't care what you do. Just keep coming to work and do what you're doing, because they were so plugged in. And so that was a really big deal for us. Getting into the community by way of having people so that when a client comes to my office, they feel like I've always said, I don't want them to feel like, hey, yeah, we do help people who speak Spanish. I want them to almost feel like they love helping people who speak Spanish. In fact, that's their preference. That's how they feel. They come in our office, everything's in Spanish. The music's, they got a Spanish radio station playing in the background. There's Spanish periodicals to read. Everything is in Spanish. So it's different. And be like, they feel comfortable. There's a trust that gets built quickly, and that's important.
It's a place where they feel like they're meant to be. And that's absolutely essential when it comes to marketing, because people underestimate like how often businesses are unintentionally off-putting because maybe for business reasons or otherwise, they're making choices with their marketing and their just overall presence that are repelling people because it doesn't make them comfortable. Like professional sites are super important, but if it looks a certain way, it may look inaccessible to somebody who's, broke and just got into a car accident and wants somebody down to earth and easy to talk to. And so you have to kind of create that atmosphere with your marketing so people feel comfortable. And that's why, that's a secret reason why photos on Google Business are so effective. I mean, for SEO reasons, technical SEO reasons, sure. But people like to scope out the place that they're going. They like to, if they're going to a restaurant, they want to know what the room looks like, what the parking looks like. And it's just an extra way of making them kind of more comfortable showing up and working with us.
I'll give you an example. Like one of the things that you talk about feeling comfortable, Liel actually pointed this out. We did a campaign and we were obviously had a specific phone number, for the campaign. So we knew that anyone calling from that number was reacting to something that Liel had put together for us that was in Spanish. And he suggested when you see that number come through, have the person answer the phone in Spanish. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it's 100% that person. And we kind of followed it for a while. And I sat back, I was like, oh my God, if I was ever in Colombia and I got in a car accident and I responded to an ad and they picked up the phone and they spoke English, immediately my trust level would go up, my stress level might come down a bit, and you'd have a much better chance of converting that lead. I bet. And in fact, that was one of his brilliant ideas that I thought, I can't believe I didn't think of it, but then again, I'm not a marketer.
Not Liel. No, this episode is definitely a we love Liel kind of episode, and I can't recommend him highly enough. And if only you just go talk to him, listeners, you definitely should.
Well, it's funny because if he doesn't think you're the right fit, he won't take your business. So it's just like, and I've had people go to him and be like, no, you won't take my work. So it's interesting. So and it is nice to have a vendor at least you feel that warmly about.
Oh, for sure. Something I wanted to mention, and this is kind of taking us back to, not inserting yourself into your ideal client profile. Because story time, me and my son, who's 4 years old, I watched Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, and he ended up loving it. And so now I've watched Ghostbusters 15,000 times in the last 2 weeks or so. And I'm bringing up Ghostbusters because there's a funny part to me when Egon, the office lady, is trying to flirt with him. And she was like, do you read a lot? And he was like, print is dead. And it cracks me up every single time because he made that statement in 1980s, whenever the original Ghostbusters came out. And people are still saying it, but people are categorically being incorrect because everyone thinks print is dead. It's cliche almost. But yet, I just watched a YouTube video from a marketer who was explaining how premium brands, and actually Charlie Mann talks about this from time to time, but premium brands use print because print is basically premium marketing. It's not dead. it's just the most expensive and probably one of the more effective. And so it's so easy to underestimate radio, print, and all of these things. But if you just accept it, it's still alive, lean into it, you'll probably be surprised at what results you get and how many people do pick up their local counties. Like my county is Fauquier County, Fauquier Times or whatever, and like go through the articles. I do. I think I have one on a back of a toilet seat somewhere. And you said toilet with 3 times. People are like, where is she going with that? Well, but I guess we're coming up on the end of the podcast. So as tradition, is there something that you wanted to talk about that we didn't end up getting to?
No, just a quick follow-up on the print is dead. When clients used to come to me and I would ask them the question, have you ever been involved in a prior car accident or any type of, yes, I have, about 5 or 6 years ago. Who was your attorney during that event? You know something? I can't remember her name. God, I know she was over 2 towns over. I can't remember her name. And that was the time when I first joined GLM, started talking to Ben and Charlie and you, and the whole concept of a print newsletter. Again, I was very reluctant. I was like, really? It was, if I had to start paring down my marketing because times were tough, it'd be one of the last things that I would stop spending on because it keeps my quote unquote tribe every month seeing something printed by me, handwritten by me, and they get to know me. I've had people say to me, "Oh my God, how's your son doing? How's your wife? I heard your wife had doing the," like they know me, right? Like it's like you're watching TV and you think you know the character, right? Doing this now for years and years and years, it's been an absolute home run. It might be, if I had to pick one piece of marketing that I thought's been most effective over my career, it would be print marketing in that form of a newsletter, one where people get it, they read it, or they toss it. Whatever they do with it, oh, there's Spada Law Group's newsletter again. Toss it. 3 days later, they or a friend or a loved one gets into a car accident. You should probably give Spada a call. At least they're not forgetting my name. They might forget how to pronounce it, but at least they'll know to call me.
That's a good callback. That's a good callback to the meeting episode. Well, thank you so much for joining with me
Pleasure.
today, or talking with me today. And it's incredible what you guys are doing up there. And I remember being in a mastermind meeting with you recently. I just can't remember exactly when you're going over some of your numbers, and it is downright impressive the way you guys are kind of dominating that market up there. So if you're into Spanish marketing or you're curious about it, definitely check out him and his site, and just Len specifically, check out his site and just admire, I guess, learn a thing or two. You know.
I'd be happy to speak to anyone who has an interest in getting into the market. What limited, experience I have, I'm willing to share. And yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, or the name of the firm is Spada Law Group, and it's spadalawgroup.com.
Awesome. Well, that's usually my last question, how people are going to find you. So check them out on LinkedIn, visit the website. And Len is happy to talk with you as well, which is awesome. But thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, Tiff.
Thank you.